On March 14th of 2020, just when the coronavirus was hitting high levels in America, I attended a Wim Hof Method Workshop. The Wim Hof Method consists of breathing methods that are great for helping people improve mind and body. It is a practice that helps people who use it endure extreme situations, reduce stress, increase energy, heighten focus, improve sports performance, endure extreme cold, and now, most importantly, it helps to improve your immune system. I had been interested in this method for years. I found Shereen Yusuff, who was located in Houston, Texas. She's played tennis competitively as a child and graduated with an engineering degree from a university in India. She has moved many times, living in China, UK, Brazil, Colombia, the Ivory Coast, and now America, Texas to be exact. Through her travels and her work, she has developed an awareness on the many different ways of approaching life and how we live in society play a huge role in who we are as individuals. Many people, including herself, conform to social norms. Instead of being true to ourselves, this realization pushed Shereen to dig deeper into understanding her true identity. She also began to experience the power of her mind. Going back to the basics, she started focusing on strengthening her foundation through joint mobility. The breathwork eventually led her to the Wim Hof Method, where she went on to become a Wim Hof Method instructor. Her vision is to build a community of conscious and connected people.
Okay, that's it.
Nice job, guys!
It's funny, when I'm out of my workshop, I talk so differently. I become calm.
I bet.
Yeah, I become very chill.
How's my hair look?
Great.
Fresh out of the ice bath, I'm here with Shereen. Is it Yusuff?
Mm-hmm.
Yusuff, or is it Brian now?
No, it's still Yusuff.
I saw Brian somewhere. Is it Brian?
Oh yeah,
That's your husband's.
Correct. That's my husband's name.
Recently married.
Correct. Yeah.
So I literally am fresh out of an ice bath. Just did my first Wim Hof workshop. Shereen came from Texas. You live in Texas now?
Mm-hmm. Houston.
Houston?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yeah, I tried to do a few of these things in the past, and the timing just didn't work out for me, so I made her come out here to us, which is where Louisiana needs a lot of some healing, some help too, I think.
I love Louisiana. I lived here for 2 years, so
Yeah.
I was happy to be back.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to start off with your journey. How did you come across Wim Hof? You said he chose you. You didn't even want to be a Wim Hof teacher, so you didn't want to be a Wim Hof teacher. And then all of a sudden, you did a seminar with him or something.
Yeah. So Wim does that with a lot of people, though. I think when you go to the instructor workshops, you kind of meet others who have come across Wim, and Wim makes a huge impact on them, and then there's kind of like this mutual recognition, which I have a great respect for Wim, primarily because he doesn't look at it as his method. He doesn't look at it as him. It's about us. It's about we all the time, and he always comes from a place of love, which is so powerful. I think if you're talking about what the world needs more of, I think definitely the world needs more of recognizing breath has a huge role to play.
Absolutely.
in our lives and in our livelihood. But it all really boils down to the recognition of who we are and the fact that it's love that connects all of us. So Wim really is the walking, talking epitome of this.
Yeah, and it's really good that he brought these methods to light, like just brought it, made it more popular.
Correct. He's done a great job at how I like to say it is he brought the East and the West together. I think I can speak for it because I spent I'd say half my life in the East, and now it's getting close to half. It's still more on the East side still. I'd say 11 years in the Middle East and 11 years in India. But then after that, it's been pretty much the West most of the time for me. And I would say that in the East, it's all about feeling. You know, it's about don't ask those questions, just do the work. You ask your teachers too many questions, they're just kind of like, what's wrong with you? Just do the work. Don't ask so many questions. I'm not saying everyone's like that, but back in the day it was a lot like that. There was a lot of faith based in the teachings that you followed. Whereas when you come to the West, it's all about which book should I read? Who should I go to? Which podcast should I listen to? Why should I listen to this? What's the science behind this? There's a lot of questioning associated with anything that I need to follow versus just going into it with faith. And I think the Wim Hof method is both. It's about understanding it, which is what makes it so powerful, and that's where the science behind the method makes such a big difference. But it's also the acknowledgement of how you feel. Everybody here, when they got out of the ice bath, they were so stressed and they were so tensed about it. But so many people came to me and said, I feel so relaxed. I can't imagine, I can't believe how amazing I feel. And that is feeling. If I can tell you a million things about how it would feel in the ice and why it would feel in the ice, but you have to get in the ice to feel it for yourself. And so I think he did a good job in bringing that together. And all of the things he's talking about, it's not numero uno. There have been other cultures and traditions and a lot of other places in Tibet that talk about similar ideals, but I would say he really did a good job in bringing it into the common man. It doesn't have to be all about spirituality. It isn't all about taking it to the next level in your mindset. He really broke it down to do this and you'll become happy, healthy, and strong. It's all about your health. If you're healthy, then you have the energy to go within. But why even talk about the spiritual journey within if you're not even healthy? So let's start from there.
I think it's interesting that he brought it to light through like an extreme situation or in an extreme way. It's almost like to wake some people up. Everybody's path is different, right? So like, some people will just go to a yoga class and be like, oh, I'm cool, I'll do breathing methods and I'll do it. But some people need, he ran up a mountain with no shoes and shorts and did this breathing technique. Whatever. Some people need a more extreme example, I guess you could say. And he brought that. That's what's really cool. But one thing I was gonna mention so after just getting done with your seminar, I think it's great, and I enjoyed it very much. I just want to speak on something that's pretty interesting to me because I found myself, how like we have like judgments and different things that come up in the back of our mind. For instance, cursing. Like one of my favorite people that I listen to right now, that's a kind of an extreme guy. He curses nonstop, and I've tried to turn him on to people, but he's like a enlightened master, I think, from prison. His name's Wes Watson. If you ever get a chance to look, but the things he's saying is the same stuff I read in like Eckhart Tolle's books or any like spiritual masters, and I'm like listening to this guy like, holy crap, this is what people need to hear. I'm like, Mom, listen to that. They're like, he curses too much and this and that. And then I found myself today, like I have no problem with cursing whatsoever, but at a certain point, you like cursing. She curses a good bit in the class, and just a small part of me, even though I'm totally open to it, small part of me is like, God damn, that's a lot of fucks.
But you know what? It's amazing that you actually were aware of that.
Oh yeah, I was catching myself like,
that's really cool.
Because I've told other people, the reason I was talking about the West thing is because I've caught myself telling other people like, don't let the cursing keep you away from the message. And like I found myself saying that to so many people, and I just thought it was, and I was catching myself today and looking at other people, seeing if they're like.
No, honestly, it's funny that you say that because I think the fact that you were even aware of it in itself is so beautiful. That's how I look at it. It's not about what you were aware of, but rather the fact that you were even aware. That's it. Just recognizing that in itself is so beautiful in my mind. So.
And I actually just recently went through yoga training here, and that reminds me that is one of those things. We got into the conversation of enlightenment, right? And like, which can be a pretty complicated conversation because some people think of enlightenment as such this big thing, but I personally think it's like levels. And one of the levels is, for instance, from a lot of the stuff I've read, I've always seen that like there's spiritual masters that would go like sit in a mountain in a cave for a long time just to realize that they're not their thoughts and that they're the seer of those thoughts. Whereas like more people are seeing that now than ever. So that's a sign that like people are waking up all over the place,
I agree completely.
Right? I was like, that was one of the realizations I had recently too. But during yoga, it came up in our yoga conversation in class, and people started talking about enlightenment, and I was like, it's levels, man. I was like, you're enlightened because you know that you are not your thoughts. You're the seer of your thoughts. Just that in itself is like, I just think that's amazing.
That's an interesting topic to talk about, right? Because Wim always says in all of his podcasts, if you hear, he'll always say, what is enlightenment? And he will say, just be happy, healthy, and strong, and the rest is bullshit, And I actually have spent a good bit of my time trying to think about this same topic, and it's funny you call it levels, I call it a 3-step process, right? And for me, what it is there is the first stage where the event actually happens, right? So say your car crashed into another car, or you found that your girlfriend is cheating on you, or you realize that somebody has evicted your apartment, or whatever, in terms of the event actually happening. That's stage 1. Stage 2 is when the feeling hits you, the recognition that, holy shit, this sucks, right? Oh my God, I want to kill my wife for cheating on me. Oh my God, the anger within me is so high that my car got hit. Or the fact that I feel so much love for someone that I shouldn't be feeling love for. The actual stage of feeling is stage 2. And then the recognition that you allowed yourself to feel 100% with no inhibition whatsoever is when you thank yourself and say, thank you for not judging me for having the feeling that I just did. And when you have that feeling of gratitude towards yourself for allowing yourself to feel whatever that feeling was in its entirety, you feel incredible amounts of love for yourself because you are okay with me being the imperfect being that I am, right? And most people want to get to stage 3 without experiencing stage 2 because as a society and as a community, we have deemed certain emotions as wrong, certain emotions as bad, certain emotions as evil, and we have tried to take away all of the things that we consider are taboo to talk about, taboo to feel. No, we are human. We came here to feel. There is nothing taboo about it. But the recognition that I feel all of this, and now that I have felt it in its entirety, I'm able to let it go because I am filled with love for myself. And the moment I'm filled with love for myself, I will always do what's true, whatever truth means for you, right? And so for me, that's pretty much been my journey so far, is the recognition that the more I allow myself to spend time in stage 2, the faster I'm able to get to stage 3. If you do not do stage 2, stage 3 is only a farce. It's a person who's showing you that he has gotten to very high levels of enlightenment or spirituality, and he or she has not. Because it's all talk. They have not done the work. Because the ability for you to sit down and recognize that the feelings that you're feeling are so wrong in your mind, but it's what you're feeling. And why are you calling it wrong? Why are you judging yourself so harshly? Why is it so bad? Why is it not okay? And then the recognition that it's okay. It's just a feeling. I can let it go. That's the second step. And when you get into that step, the love that you feel for yourself, that's the third. When you can get to a place that you love yourself unconditionally, you don't have to worry about anything else. Loving others unconditionally comes naturally. You don't even have to try.
I know that's this whole misconception. Like I have had people that I've had conversations with that think it's selfish. I've heard that argument where it's like selfish for you to only love, that's, your self-love, that's selfish. You're like, no, it doesn't work that way. It makes so much more sense to kind of, just like when you're on a flight and they say take care of yourself before you take care of your kid or whatever. You can't help other people if you're fucked up as well.
But in order for you to love yourself, you have to come true to yourself. You have to be able to be honest with yourself, with who you are. In fact, it's funny, anybody who is a part of AA understands this concept, right?
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about AA when I came here. I have a very close friend of mine who actually showed me what the 12 steps were, and it's amazing to me that the 12 steps are so powerful. And so this concept of showing honesty to yourself is a very clear step in AA, and I find it so funny that it's something that we should all be doing, but it is a part of the AA group, right? And so honestly, like, I was mind blown when I saw the steps, and I was thinking, holy crap, this is amazing. This is stuff that everybody should be doing. But we have put ourselves on a pedestal because we don't have issues and problems that the society and the community consider as problems. We are not addicted to drugs and alcohol, so we are fine. I was addicted to fitness. I used to work out 3 times a day to be able to handle the pain that I was carrying. Is that any different from resorting to drugs?
Yeah.
How is that any different? Fitness was my drug.
It's an accepted addiction.
Yeah, it's a I wish I was like you, Shereen, addiction, right?
Is,
oh, you're so lucky, Shereen.
Yeah.
You work out so many times. I wish I was like that, right? No addiction is good. The fact that you even feel that you need to do something to help you get to a place which is bearable in your own eyes is not healthy. Right? And the more people talk about this and recognize this, it's important. It's an important conversation to have with others and with yourself, most importantly.
Yeah. I had a hard time in the ice bath, by the way. I know I'm changing the subject.
No, you're not.
But
you're not.
I wanted to mention that. I thought it was so funny because, I mean, that's part of why I did it, because because I knew that I hated the cold. And I've done other, like I jump in a pool that my friend has during the winter time just to and tried it a few times, and I still had the same kind of, I couldn't stop shivering. I couldn't stop. Is that me not letting go?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you remember, but I kept telling you.
I get it.
Yeah.
Like I know.
Because you were holding on. I could see it.
I couldn't let go.
Yeah, you couldn't let go.
I think that I need to, I'm trying to heat myself up or something, and
it's really hard for you to recognize that it is taking that long for you to get used to the ice. It's that simple.
That's what it was.
It's that simple. And so it's a struggle. It's a struggle within yourself. How the hell?
I couldn't let go.
I'm trying to keep it very clean here. How the hell? Am I not able? Why is it taking so long?
Yeah.
Why not? Would you be that harsh with your best friend? If your best friend was in the ice and he was struggling with it, is that what you would be thinking? Come on, man. Why are you being such a whatever you want to put in?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Why man up?
Yeah.
Right? Well, why are you so weak? These are the thoughts that are coming. Maybe you don't feel them. Maybe you're not aware. But unfortunately, this is what we're living in. This is the world that we're living in. We're constantly judging ourselves all the time. We want to perform according to the standards that we set for ourselves, right? And so, no, I mean, I watched you, and I could see the fight. I could see it, and it was in my mind. It's okay.
No,
as long as you have the fight going, it is what it is, and you will take as long as it takes for the fight to last. And at some point, you're going to get tired, and you're going to let go.
Yeah.
You know.
I wanted to get your thoughts on. I'm really interested in freediving.
Okay.
And so. I don't know if you understand this much. I mean, I'm sure you do. From my understanding, from the little bit I've read about freediving, is you tapping into like the spleen, and it has red blood cells and oxygen stored, and so that gag feeling when you're holding your breath is releasing more energy in your body. Does Wim ever talk about that or anything? Or is that?
So it's a very freediving is a very interesting topic, right? And it's one of those places where it's kind of this uneasy topic as well, because it involves water, and it involves going into the water and staying down there for long periods of time, right? Because one of the issues that the Wim Hof method we talk about all the time from a safety standpoint is the recognition that you don't ever want to do the method and then go into the water and stay down there because of a potential of a shallow water blackout, right? And so I kind of explained that during the workshop about how that works and how there is a potential for you to pass out, and if you pass out, you don't want to be in the water, because then when the autonomous reflex happens and you get that big surge to be able to take that breath in, you're now gulping water and then you drown and die. That's pretty much how it works, right? So with regards to actually when you go into the topic of free diving, honestly, there are a lot of free divers that actually do the Wim Hof method, right? But they don't actually say that they're doing the method and then they immediately go and do the free diving.
It's a different type of
it's a different
slower
exactly
belly breathing.
Yeah, and so there is a lot of overlap there, but it's also not to the extent of what Wim does, right? But at the same time, there's so much in common there. Like for example, Wim, I'm assuming you're familiar with the record that Wim had where he swam the entire length of like almost a football field.
Yes.
Right under the ice. And you watch him. He's actually.
And it's froze.
Yeah, exactly. Right. He's actually taking deep breaths. I don't know if you've ever seen the video, but he takes deep breaths. And he goes to a place, and then he goes down, and he takes that swim. Right. So when it comes in, when you start going into topics like deep diving, I would definitely say get a coach. Get a coach, because it's really important to recognize what are the benefits of doing certain parts of it, what are the disadvantages, what are the advantages, what are the risks that you're doing when you're actually going into a field like that, right? But it's, like you said, it's absolutely fascinating. I've thought so many times of going to Hawaii and be able to take a course there, because I think that also is a very liberating kind of a feeling and exposure of being able to go so deep and just, if you're free. Because I love scuba diving, so it's one of those things where it's like, wow, and I know I have the ability to do that. I can stay down there for 3 minutes, 4 minutes if I wanted to.
Yeah, so that's the fun part. That's what I love about it. The way it was explained to me is like, if you want to study the ocean, if you're using, because sound moves so much quicker underwater, using all that equipment is equivalent of like riding a four-wheeler through the forest, studying the forest, because it's so loud. So, there's certain animals that you won't see if you don't go like a ninja free dive. And that's kind of why I'm so into it. And it's about pushing the body, to another level. Yeah. That's really kind of what I'm all about. That's why I love jiu-jitsu. That's why I love a lot of stuff, because I'm really just into that.
Pushing the body,
human performance,
Sure. I talked about that, right? Like I was exactly the same. Now for me, it's all about the mind. I feel like through the body there was a lot that I was able to explore, and when I added the combination of the mind as well, I realized, holy crap, I am not even tapping into 1/10 of the potential of my body. And I was able to get that through my mind.
I'm sorry. I think I know what you're saying, but I want to know it.
So I had mentioned, right? So I started my path, through tennis, and then after tennis, it went into, working out. I love lifting weights. I'm very big into lifting weights. And then I went into running, and then running became marathons became ultramarathons, ultramarathons became triathlons, and then Ironmans. And so it just kept going, and that was what I was doing too, was pushing my body. And I was able to go deeper and deeper within myself through the art of my body, right? But it wasn't till I had my ACL surgery, where I went completely kaput on the body side, that was the first time that I had to sit down. And when I sat down and I couldn't do anything through the aspect of what my body was able to teach me, that was when I fell into depression. That was when I felt lost, I felt lonely, I felt depressed, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know why I was in the US, because I was living in the US then. I felt like I had no friends that I could consider family. All of these thoughts came up, and this time, no run, no fight, nothing could take me away from them. It was just there, So in desperation, that was when I kind of turned towards the Holy Scriptures. And the reason I turned towards the Scriptures was because I thought to myself, I grew up hating my religion, because I felt like my religion didn't do me justice.
And just for the camera, it's...
I grew up Muslim. I grew up Muslim,
okay.
yeah. Okay. And so I spent a long period of my life just very, very angry towards my religion, because I felt like, I couldn't do a lot of things in my life, and I was raised a certain way with certain beliefs, because it was driven a lot by what I thought religion was, right? And so during, coming back to where I am in the story of my ACL surgery and all of the issues that led to me being out of it for 1 year, I turned to the scriptures because I thought, well, I've never read any of them, and they've been going through generations after generations. There must be something interesting written in them. Why don't I read them? And so I picked up the Bhagavad Gita, I picked up the Quran, I picked up the Bible, and I picked up Buddhism. And I started reading these books. And a lot of people say, oh, they're all the same. Honestly, I don't really feel that. I don't actually think that they're all the same. But I will say that there is a concept of love and faith that is in these books that I did not understand. And that was really where my journey of breath started, because I couldn't understand it. I thought I understood what love meant. I thought I had experienced love. I had relationships. I loved my parents. I loved my sibling. I loved people. Like, there were people in my life that I loved and I believe loved me. But it was not the way that it was described in these books, And so I was confused. I didn't know where to start, how to start this journey of trying to understand what love felt like. But then there was also another aspect of breath in some of these scriptures. They talked about breath. And so I thought, well, I'm just going to go fully in. I'm going to venture in and explore breath. And I did. I tried a bunch of things. I did Qigong, Pranayama. Wim Hof Method actually came much later. So there were a lot of things that I practiced. And I realized that the more I was breathing, the more things started coming to surface. Things that I wasn't aware of that were present within me. Thoughts that I didn't know existed within me. Judgments that I didn't realize I carried within me. I've lived in 13 different countries and I speak about 6 or 7 languages. I need to count to remember how many. But a lot of people assume, oh, you're so cultured. You've lived in so many countries, you speak so many languages, you must know so much. I completely disagree. You could travel the whole world.
Yeah.
But if you don't realize what's in your head and the thoughts that exist in your mind, you can be the most judgmental person ever.
Yeah.
And you can live all over the world, speak as many languages as you want, and you still carry them. And that was me. Don't get me wrong, it helped. I recognized that all the thoughts and the ideals that I grew up with, the recognition of what was right and what was wrong in many other countries were not right and wrong. What was wrong in Oman or in India was not wrong in the US or Brazil. What was right there was wrong here. And those things kind of made me aware that my thoughts aren't the law. There are different places and different people think differently. So that was my first exposure. So I'm not saying that all that was to avail. But at the same time, it wasn't until I started breathing that the thoughts started coming up. And when the thoughts started coming up, that was when I recognized how misaligned my mind was with my body. This is what I was explaining in the workshop, that when you start breathing, when you start regaining the alignment between the body and the mind, then your body and your mind can talk to each other. Then the trauma that you store in your body and in your mind can talk to each other. The fact that our brain has parts of it which you have the prefrontal cortex, which does all the logical thinking, and then you have the emotional part of the brain, and then you have the reptilian brain, right? The fact that all three are now talking to each other. A lot of us, we are driven by a prefrontal cortex. We know what we need to do based on logic, based on thought, not based on feeling.
Yeah.
When you can bring them both, then you are able to recognize how you can get to a place of feeling what you want, and then your prefrontal cortex can show you the shortest way to get there. So your prefrontal cortex should be serving the emotional and the reptilian brain and not the other way around. Most of us have no clue what's inside our emotional brain.
You would find interesting is I'm recently reading a book on body language, and he mainly talks about the prefrontal cortex and the limbic brain. So your prefrontal cortex, the thinking brain, is your lying brain. That's why people can lie. They mostly lie with their face, but you have tics and different things that happen when you're lying, like reading body language, and that's the limbic brain. That's the feeling brain. That's what's holding all your thought, your truth.
Sure. So like your eyes, your muscles around your eyes are actually controlled by the emotional brain, which is why, but the muscles around your mouth are not. That's why they say that your eyes don't lie. So when you smile, when you're actually smiling from your eyes, it's very, very obvious because that's really hitting your emotional brain.
Nice.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's small little quirks like this, you know.
Yeah.
But it's amazing how when you're able to regain the mind-body alignment, that's when you recognize your body is not even doing 1/10 of its true potential. That's when you can become a big, greater fighter, do more. And at that point in time, you're not even doing it for the body. You're doing it because you know you can. And at that point, it's a choice. It's not because you have to do it. It's because it's okay to do it. But at the end of the day, it makes no difference whether you fight or not, whether you go run or not, because you are amazing. And when you realize that, then running, fighting just becomes an option. My mission in life is to get closer to God. That's my mission. You know, everybody's mission is different.
You think? What do you think about the concept of your conscience is the voice of God?
It is.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. So becoming one with God is the recognition of my true self all the time, right? Not in spurts, not 1 hour in the morning, not about 2 or 3 hours in the day. It's about being in that element all the time.
Yeah. And that brings me to you mentioned meditating and recently getting married. You mentioned how you thought you were never going to ever marry anybody.
Yes.
Because you couldn't live a life you couldn't live the life you wanted to live with a man.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that came to you in meditation.
Yeah.
What made me think about this is you mentioned Qigong, and that's been a practice that I've had for a good 7 years now. And I mean, I wouldn't say I've been more consistent in the past 3, but like literally daily, I almost like can't live without it.
Yeah.
That's my morning meditation. Like it's just, you know, those slow movements and getting familiar with the energy kind of thing. And most of my ideas, a lot of the ideas for, you know, doing this channel and doing different types of videos, you know, it's pretty crazy because I never thought that would happen. You know, people talk about meditation, and never, for a long time, I think I tried, and when you try, it doesn't happen, right? It's like,
yeah, I mean, you have to. Well, the question is, are you trying because you believe you need to, or are you trying because you believe or you have the faith that trying is only a process that is a very small part of the actual journey, right? Because when you start getting into the mode, everybody has to start with the try. You try. Why are you trying? What is your motive? Why? What is your why? That is the part that makes the difference between I need to, I have to, versus I want to, right? And you can try in both those situations, but the feeling is completely different, right? The recognition that I had when I went into a place one day and I realized I want to meditate. I have to do this. Every day I have to get up at 4:30, which is not easy for me because I don't sleep much anyway, and now you're just cutting that by even more. Right? So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, what the hell? I only sleep 4 to 5 hours a day, and now I'm thinking about taking another hour off of that. I'm going to be suffering. Yeah. But the drive was so high because I knew something in me told me, like I said, what is this something? What is this voice that is your guiding light? When that guiding light comes, there is no stopping you. Then it's all about listening to your inner self. When the inner self says, Shereen, I'm knocking, open that door, then it's up to me whether I want to open that door or not. For me, that door was meditation. When I got the knock and said, open the door, I want to start meditating. Okay, let's do this. I'm going to make a way to make this work. I'm going to figure out a way. I'm probably going to figure out how to sleep early. I'm going to figure out ways to do this so as to be able to accommodate this section of what I believe my inner self, my true self is asking me to do. Now, the front period is a trial, right? Because I'm getting up. Are you telling me the first day I came out and I was like, holy shit, I'm amazing. I feel like a saint. No, hell no, right? You do it. But yeah, maybe it was, I think it was the first time I did it, I was able to quieten my mind for maybe at max 1 minute or 2 minutes. And this is where the recognition that the more my retention time was getting longer, the recognition that, oh wow, The taste of stillness came to me through the Wim Hof method. The taste of stillness, because most of us talk about meditation of breath, meditation of flow, meditation of movement. Being in the moment, washing my hands is also meditation. This is true. Playing tennis is meditation. This is true. But the first awareness of the meditation of stillness came to me through the Wim Hof method. And when I realized the power of that feeling, it blew my mind, literally and figuratively, right? It was an experience I can never explain. I remember I came out of that experience and I cried and I cried and I cried, and I had no idea why I was crying, but I only remembered thinking, I am so insignificant. I am so insignificant, but there is so much significance in feeling so insignificant. Right? The feeling that I had I didn't have any knowledge of my body. I realized I was just energy. I felt flow in every direction. I felt no boundaries. I felt nothing. I felt completely connected to everything.
Yeah,
right?
I felt that way today.
Yeah, there were even our Brazilian friend, yes.
Leonardo, yeah.
He said the same thing. He sat there and he said, Shereen, I have never felt anything like that before.
Yeah.
I felt just absolute bliss. And I felt connected with everything. When you taste that, then at that point, there's no going back. Then you ask yourself, if 3 minutes of stillness is what gave me that, what would an hour give me? What would an hour and a half give me? Right? And so that's where my drive started. Right? And I was lucky at that point that was about the same time that I was getting the drive to go back into religion. I had already come full circle. I accepted my religion. When I went back to my scriptures, I realized that the perception I had of religion was so different from what religion actually was, and I was opening my mind up to it again. And at that point, when I started getting the call, go back into religion, Shereen, I did. I went back into Islam again through the path of Sufism. And when I did that, that was about the same time it all happened at the same time, right? Which is funny, because for some it can be a coincidence. For me, it was not a surprise. All of it came into my life at the same time, because my body and my mind was ready for it. When the alignment happens, your body and mind are ready to receive. You then become a container to receive. So when I got the feeling of going into religion, I chose Sufism. And when I went into Sufism, it brought me into meditation. In Sufism, we have 10 centers, and currently I'm focusing on the first. And so the idea of I turn my gaze to my heart and I turn my heart to God, that was how I started my meditation. And it was just the beginning. Yeah. After that, there was no going back. I mean, my meditations just kept going and going and going, and the breath allows me to go deeper and deeper and deeper into my meditations, because it takes me to a place where when I get into meditation mode, I'm able to stay silent and stay still for longer and longer periods of time. And after after a certain period of doing this, of this trial, that's when the voices start coming. The voices that I know that are looking out for me, the voices that are mine, that are God's, that are of my higher self, that are of the universe, call it whatever you want, right? That is one of the voices that asked me to get married, right? So it was all of these things lead to one after the other. But I really mean it. I married a man after knowing him for 2 months, and it was the best decision of my life. In the first month, the level of spiritual growth I got just by being with him was mind-blowing. I knew at that point that there was no way I could have had it without being married to him. No level of boyfriend or no level of dating or no level of closeness would have allowed me to go to the work I had to do to break the archetypes of marriage that I had in my own self, right? It had to go there. I had to marry him for me to let those demons come out as well. And then I had to go back to meditation to do the work all over again, to realize the judgment that was coming up, to realize all of the thoughts that were stored within me from looking at the other couples around me, from looking at my mom and dad. All of these things starting again and again and again. The process never gets over. It just keeps going.
Yeah, that was good.
It's too much to cover, no? In a 6-hour workshop.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm obviously interested in all different religions and all different thought, and I haven't even considered looking into any kind of Sufism.
But for most people who don't know about Sufism, It is, most people know of Rumi, and Rumi is, I think he's a very famous poet. Most people know him, and I think a lot of people write his quotes everywhere. He's a Sufi.
Yeah, I recognize that. So one thing is, this channel actually, one of the things, it used to be called, I was following you, communicating mostly with you through my other channel name, which was The White Musashi. And I wanted to explain what that is. The meaning behind that was like growing up for me, I was always really good at sports, and I was also a really good artist. So I was always growing up, I was always having this battle, like, should I be a painter or drawer? Should I be concentrating on my sports? And like in high school, my jock friends didn't want to hang out with my art friends, this and that. And then I battled with this most of my life, and it wasn't until I was around 30 or so that I was reading Miyamoto Musashi, and one of his, he's one of the most famous samurai that becomes a Zen monk later on. And he writes that every warrior should have a peaceful art as well as a killing art. This is the twofold way.
Nice.
And so my peaceful art is photography, and then jujitsu. And it's like literally like recently, and this is one of those things that probably kind of came to me in meditation, is like I started, I took off. I didn't train as much jujitsu because I wanted to concentrate more on photography, and then eventually I kind of realized they kind of helped each other. It was like body and mind. It's like one practice that you're trying to master with the body, and one you're trying to master with the mind. For the most part, they both contain the body and mind in a certain sense, but that's the idea. Do you have a peaceful and a killing art?
I feel like it is all happening all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. Yeah. Like, you saw a whole different face of mine when I was in the workshop. I could have killed people, right? But at the same time, right now, you're saying...
You're so right.
Yeah.
I see it, like, just looking at you right here, the look of your face compared to,
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I feel like it is always happening. I always have a peaceful side, and at any point, I can go to the warrior, and I come back to the peaceful, and I go to the warrior. Yeah. But I love both sides. Yeah. I enjoy both sides. And it's interesting because the more ferocious my warrior side becomes, the more peaceful my peaceful side becomes. But a lot of people, my friends, tell me, Shereen, you seem so calm these days, right? But it's funny because on the other side, like, I picked up the steel mace now. I'm doing a lot of things which in the past I didn't do. And even the way I teach is changing and is becoming more and more ferocious. But at the same time, my calmness is also going up with it. So I agree. I see where you're coming from, and you say it's twofold. I feel like it's happening all the time. I can literally speak to one and scream at one, and then immediately exhibit love to the same person in the same minute, right?
I love that you use the steel mace. That's my favorite way of working out now. And speaking of like warrior, like ancient warrior workout, that's what I want to like do. Like, that's what I do for myself, is that I just use a kettlebell and a club. Yeah. And I just
it's so amazing,
these moments.
That
and
feeling.
I feel so, I don't even have to do a full, a 10-minute workout. And I look in the mirror, I'm like,
Yeah, exactly. It's just so, and that's what I was referring to earlier. Is the awareness that what you feel is already within you. The mace is only showing you who you are, right? But the recognition that a lot of people put that with the mace. They need the mace to feel that way, so they keep going back to the mace. No, that's who you are all the time. I don't have to be that person if the mace is not with me. I can be that person whenever I want. And it is when you start flowing with whatever it is that you're flowing, the more you flow with it, the more you start recognizing that is only showing you what you are without it as well.
Yeah.
Because when you love something, the love doesn't belong to the something. The love is within you. It was your ability to love in that extent that made you love whatever it is that is drawing you to it. That love belongs to you, not to it, right? And so that concept is, in my mind, so basic, if you think about it, right? Because the moment you realize this, you realize, holy crap, I get to choose whoever I want to be whenever I want to be. I don't need to do anything. I can be whatever I want, whenever I want, right? And that in itself is so freeing. It's so liberating. I realize I don't have to work out. I don't have to play with anything. I don't have to have children. I don't even have to have a husband. But I'm so grateful that I get to have it all. I get to choose. I get to have it all. But at the same time, not having it all doesn't change anything either.
I love that you mentioned the Wim Hof method is biohacking.
Yes.
In a sense, it is biohacking.
Yes, this is the new term, no? Everybody's talking about biohacking.
I'm into biohacking.
There you go.
What made me think about biohacking was talking about working out the way we're working out, but I also I call it like a warrior workout, but it also involves like putting your feet on the earth, like
yes,
and working out. So I pretty much try to do qigong on the earth every day if I can.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes I can't get outside in the grass, and that's one of the reasons that motivated me to live in a more tropical atmosphere, like Louisiana.
Yeah. Tell me about it.
To be able to get outside and put my feet on the earth. But can you explain a little more how
the biohacking part of
how
it?
Biohacking, Wim Hof method is biohacking.
Sure. So, again, the ability for us to go into certain parts of our body, brain, at will is what makes it a biohack, right? So, how am I able to access the reptilian brain at will, right? Is by doing certain things with my breathing. Is the way I change the ratio of oxygen to carbon dioxide within me. Is what is the retention period doing? All of those aspects of how I am utilizing cellular respiration, I'm utilizing the change in the ratio of oxygen to carbon dioxide, I'm using things to give me a simulation of high altitude training is all what makes this a method of biohacking. Because what is biohacking is the ability to hack into your biology, right? Yep. So if you're able to hack into you, and you're able to tweak things at will, that's it. That's what makes it a biohacking method.
That's what the Wim Hof method is all about. I think we're good. I know you got a long ride ahead of you. You got to get it going. But I got to get a headshot of you real quick.
Sure.
And then we'll
Absolutely.
Get out of here.
Yes.
Get you out of here.
Thank you so much for your time.
Man.
I really appreciate you.
I enjoyed it. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Pretty good, right?